The first 90 days, leading when you're new. Welcome to Learning Reframed, a leadership series exploiting calm leadership, strategic clarity, and the systems that build high-performance cultures. I'm Dr. Ken Feldman, and on each episode, we break down practical disciplines that help leaders create clarity, stability, and meaningful projects in complex environments. If you find these episodes valuable, follow the podcast on your favorite platform and share it with someone who you believe would benefit. So let's get started. There's a moment on your first morning in a new leadership role that no one warns you about. You walk in, people smile. They say all the right things. And underneath every one of those handshakes, the same quiet question is running through the room. What is this one going to be like? They're not reading your resume. They're not impressed by your title, at least not yet. And they're reading your first moves the way a sailor reads the sky. And here is the mistake almost every new leader makes. They believe the answer to that question is to do something. Do something quickly, visibly, something that proves they deserve the chair. It isn't. The first 90 days are not about proving you belong. They're about earning the right to lead the people who already do. This episode is for anyone who has just stepped into something new. A first principalship, a new directorship, a department you've been handed for the first time, or a role you've held before, but in a place that doesn't know you yet. Whether it's your first leadership job or your fifth, the first 90 days, the same rules apply. And those rules are frankly counterintuitive because the very thing that got you the role, your competence, your drive, your track record of fixing things is the thing most likely to trip you up in the first 3 months. So let's talk about what those 90 days are actually for and how to use them so that so that day 91, people are following you because they want to, not because the org chart tells them to do so. Let's start with a distinction that changes everything. Authority is assigned, but trust is earned. Let me say that again. Authority is the org chart. It's assigned, but your trust is earned. The day you were appointed, the day you were handed authority, a title, a budget line, the formal power to make decisions, you were not handed any level of trust. No one can give you that. It is built. And the first 90 days are the construction site. You've been given a position, not a mandate. The first 90 days are where you turn one into the other. So here's why this matters so much. New leaders feel an enormous pressure to demonstrate their value fast. The reasoning goes, I was hired to make things better. So should I start making things better immediately? And so they reorganize in week 2. They announce new initiatives before they understand the old ones. They mistake motion for leadership. But think about what that communicates. When you change things, you don't just understand. You tell experienced people in the building one thing. Your judgment doesn't require my knowledge. You just made an enemy of the exact people who support you need. The urge to prove yourself by acting fast is not leadership. It's ego, wearing leadership clothes. Calm leadership does the opposite. It slows down at the start, so you can move faster later. The more confident things a new leader can do is not to need to prove anything in the first 90 days. Let me tell you a story about 2 leaders. Same kind of role, same kind of organization, opposite outcomes. The first arrived with a plan. By week 2, he had reconstructed reporting lines, reframed 2 departments, and rolled out all new meeting cadence. All before he understood why any of the old systems existed. On paper, he looked decisive. In reality, he had stepped on a dozen invisible tripwires. The meeting he eliminated was the one place wearing departments actually talked. The structure he flattened was the result of a hard-won compromise 3 years earlier. By month 3, he was technically in charge and functionally alone. People complied, no one followed. The second leader walked into a similar mess and did almost nothing for a month. She met people, she asked questions, she wrote things down, and when she finally made her first real change in week 6, it was small, it was specific, and it solved a problem everyone had been complaining about for years. And because she spent a month earning the right, people didn't resist it. They were relieved. The one change brought her credibility for everything that came afterwards. Same intelligence, same intentions. The difference was sequence. One led with answers, the other led with attention. Here's a simple way to structure the 90 days. 3 specific phases, 30 days each. Listen, locate, and lead. First days, listen. The only job in the first 30 days is to understand, not to fix, not to impress, to understand. How does this place actually work, as opposed to how the document says it works? Where is the trust? Where is the resentment? And who has informal influence that the organizational chart doesn't show? What are people proud of? And what are they protecting? You cannot lead a system you don't understand. And you can only get to see it with fresh eyes, only once. Spend that window listening. In the second 30 days, locate. Now you're looking for leverage. One out of everything you could work on, and what is the 1 or 2 things that, if improved then, would change the most? Not the loudest problem, not the highest leverage one. This is where your judgment starts to earn its keep. You're narrowing, not expanding. A new leader who tries to fix 10 things fixes none. A new leader who picks the right 2 becomes indispensable. And the last third, 61 to 90 days, lead. Now you act visibly with purpose. You make your first real move and make sure it lands. This is the moment people have been waiting for. And because you've spent 60 days earning that right, that move carries weight. It carries clarity. The goal of the first 90 days is not a list of changes. It's one that's well chosen, well executed, change that proves you understand the place and you can move it forward. Let's make this concrete. Here are the moves that actually work in the first 90 days. Run a listening tour, but make it structured. Meet everyone who matters one-on-one in the first few weeks. Because frankly, everyone matters. Don't wing it. Ask each person a consistent set of questions so you can hear the patterns. When 5 different people independently name the same problem, you found something real. Ask the one question that opens people up. Create dialogue. My favorite question was, if you're sitting in my seat, what's the first thing you would fix? And what would you absolutely protect? The second half is magic. It tells you what people value, not just what frustrates them. And it signals that you're not here to burn the place down. Stop comparing this place to your last job. The fastest way to lose a team is the phrase, at my last institution. Every time you say, people here, you'd rather be there. You were hired for your judgment, not for nostalgia. Bring the lessons, leave the comparisons. Find the one early win that's real. Look for a small, visible problem that you can solve cleanly, something people have complained about but nobody fixed. Solving it does more for your credibility than the grand vision statement. And make sure it's real, not cosmetic. People can smell a manufactured win. Don't move a fence until you know why it's there. That's an old principle. Before you remove a fence, find out why someone built it. Almost everyone obviously broken system you inherit was built to solve a problem you can't see yet. Understand the reason before you remove the structure. Sometimes that fence is genuinely useless, but only thing holding back something worse. Write down what you see in week 1. You'll never again see this organization as clearly as you do in your first weeks. First impressions matter, and before you get to its dysfunction, keep a running document of what surprises you. What seems off? What works better than expected? Because in 6 months, you've gone from native to the lowest notes, the most honestly data you ever have. Deeper truth. Here's the truth underneath it all. Restraint reads as confidence. When you walk in and don't scramble to prove yourself, people notice it. The leader who doesn't need to make a splash is the one who looks most in control, because they are. Insecurity acts fast. Security can wait. The most confident move a new leader can make is to listen first, pause, and act second. And there's a longer game here too. Everything you build after the 90 days stands on the trust bank that you first 90 days built. Rushing the foundation in every later initiative wobbles. Lay it carefully, and you can build it for years. The first 90 days are slow on purpose because they're holding up everything that will come next. So here's your reflection for the next week. First, name honesty, which phrases you're actually in. You are listening, locating, or leading. Where are you? Most leaders skip straight to leading and wonder why nothing sticks. Second, identify the one question you haven't asked your team yet. The one you've been avoiding because you're afraid of the answer. Go at it this week. The answer is usually where the real work begins. Leadership in a new role isn't about arriving with answers. It's about arriving with intention. Arriving and earning the right to lead one honest conversation at a time. Remember, first listen, locate, and then leverage. And at the end, lead. So next time, we go into the single highest leveraging thing any leader can do. You let onto a team in the first place, because no leader, not one, ever outperforms the one they hire. That's next on Learning Reframed. Thanks for listening to Learning Reframed. If this episode was helpful, follow the podcast on your favorite platform and give it a like on YouTube. But more importantly, let's share it with the new leader that you are, that you mentor, or that you work with. And we'll find more leadership insights in books and writing at learningreframed.org. And remember, leadership becomes clearer the more calmly and consistently we practice. See you next time.